Now I would like to turn to Adam Balogh, who is the head of the Ukraine support unit at the Energy Community. Energy Community is a very important institution. It supports Ukraine in different dimensions. It supports Ukraine regulatory development, but also it is helping Ukraine and Ukrainian businesses to attract finance and to promote projects that they have. Adam has a strong experience of working at the Energy Community Secretariat. He was also the head and of the task that led Ukraine Support Fund. So I'm sure that Adam will have some good insights for us. And I would like to welcome you, Adam, to make also some welcome remarks and then move on to your presentation so people can understand better what is the latest upgrades they have from Energy Community and what kind of support can be provided to companies or to investors doing business in Ukraine. Please, the floor is yours.
Mr. Ambassador, distinguished speakers, dear participants, and thank you to the organizers for the invitation and thanking of the Energy Community Secretariat for this distinguished event. So just a couple of words about the Energy Community Secretariat. So the Secretariat is the executive body of the international organization Energy Community, which is based on an international treaty, and we are seated in Vienna, Austria. Now, our core mandate, without the war or before the war, is the harmonization of the legislative and regulatory environment of our contracting parties with that of the European Union in the spheres of energy and climate. And our contracting parties are the Western Balkan 6 countries, non-EU members, Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia. And in that work of legislative harmonization, that de facto means accelerated integration to the specific fields with the European Union, which can be as tangible as access to the common electricity market. You are happy to visit our website and seek out our annual report, where you will see the achievements, the level of harmonization achieved by our contracting parties in the specific areas. Now, if I may ask, we can put up the presentation. Thank you. So at first, I will briefly introduce the Ukraine Energy Support Fund and then touch upon other areas with regard to Ukraine and our work in some bullet points. So next slide, please. So how does the fund work? What is the fund? So thanks to our work on the legislative and regulatory harmonization, we have been very closely cooperating with key Ukrainian institutions, such as the Ministry of Energy, Regulatory Authority, specific commissions of the Rada or Ministry of Economy, depending on the area, be it energy or climate, where certain legislative or regulatory work has been ongoing. Now, due to that, we have been actually requested by the European Commission, jointly by the Ministry of Energy, to set up a fund at the outset of the full-scale invasion. So already, unfortunately, 4 years ago in the spring of 22, which we have quickly answered, and we came up already then with a structure which can channel monetary assistance to Ukraine, which also then provides business opportunities for suppliers who are then able to sell equipment for Ukraine. Now, the primary goal is mitigating the damages sustained by the Ukrainian energy complex, by the Ukrainian energy infrastructure, as a result of the direct attacks of Russia on the energy infrastructure. Now, how does the fund work? Eligible Ukrainian energy infrastructure operators prepare so-called support requests, which are submitted to the Ministry of Energy. These support requests include the technical specifications of the equipment that they need to replace and or install, which is then prioritized and approved by a working group, which is chaired by the Ministry of Energy. But this working group has actually representation from various actors, including NGOs. The Secretariat itself is an observer. Also, donors to the fund can be observers. the Technical Inspectorate of Ukraine, which is verifying damages, or the regulatory authority are all participating in the work of the working group. After the working group approves a request from the Ukrainian companies, that is forwarded to us by the Ministry of Energy, and we match it with funds available from our donors. Now, donors can be quite varied. Our primary donors are countries and the European Commission, not only member states, but overseas as well, including Canada, the United States, Norway, Iceland, or Australia, and a large number of member states. On the following slide, you will see how the picture looks currently. And we are matching available funds with the support requests, with their estimated costs, and we send it to our dedicated independent, we can still stay on the previous slide, to our dedicated independent procurement agent, whose sole responsibility is to carry out an open, transparent procurement procedure, which is a global one. So procurement is available globally. Of course, companies have to comply with certain conditions. First and foremost, they have to be able to supply the technical specifications as described in the request for quotations, but also they shall not be sanctioned. And there are certain conditionalities on origins. Of course, companies cannot be of Belarusian or Russian origin. Everything is detailed in the request for quotations as published on our platform, which I will also show. Now, once the procurement has run, a supply contract is concluded between the supplier and the Ukrainian energy company, and the secretariat is the payer on behalf of the Ukrainian energy company. This means that in practice, there is no payment risk for the suppliers because the funds are blocked for the sole purpose, being that specific support requests which are mentioned at the beginning. So we cannot use those funds for anything else, just for the specific support request. Once the contract is concluded, and of course the supplier complies with the payment milestones of the supply contract, after internal controls, we pay directly to the suppliers. And again, these funds are mostly provided by donors who are sovereigns, so who are countries, but it's also open for private entities, corporations, companies, IFIs. So actually, anyone can donate for this purpose who can align with the goals of the funds and looks for an efficient and transparent way of channeling funds specifically for the Ukraine energy infrastructure. We can jump on to the next slide. So as of now, the fund has collected pledges of 1.92 billion euros, out of which 1.87 billion euros has been deposited on the special purpose account of the fund. And you can see our share of donors. So largest donor at the moment is Germany, followed closely by Sweden, European Commission, United Kingdom, Norway, the Netherlands, and this data is available on our website, and whenever there is any fresh information coming in, that's shared right away on the website. We can jump to the next slide. And there are a number of safeguards in place. Now, most important for potential suppliers is that we pay directly to the suppliers. The funds are not channeled through Ukrainian institutions, but are kept on the special purpose account of the Energy Community Secretariat of the fund, of which we are the managers of, and we pay directly to the suppliers. We have independent procurement process, which is in line with international standards as approved by the donors of the fund. So we have quite strict procurement guidelines, which are approved by the donors of the fund, and everything is documented in line with that. And eventually, each year, the fund is also audited by one of the big four auditors. Plus, we have ad hoc audits, we have internal audits, we have quite detailed reporting ongoing for our donors and for the Ministry of Energy. As much as safe and as much as reasonable, we are also reporting to the public. And we have multi-layered internal controls in place, so we control every support request, every concluded supply agreement, and each and every payment based on the four-right principle, and payments are carried out only after this control process has run through. We can go for the next slide. Now, just a quick snapshot. We have a dedicated procurement platform for most of the funds procurements, which you can access through the QR code or the links. It is based on an engine called DG Market, which is a globally recognized platform. It's quite user-friendly, secure, with double authentication. So potential suppliers can register there, and then after registration, they will have access to all ongoing procurements, to all the requests for quotations, which each of them details everything with regard to the procurement of specific equipments. Submission of bids is through secure electronic submission. And the fund has also a special program, which is called Ray of Hope, where we are assisting Ukrainian hospitals in cooperation with the Ministry of Health, where we are procuring EPC contracts for the complete execution of PV battery storage systems for Ukrainian hospitals. And that procurement is actually written out on the Secretariat's website and not on the procurement platform. But the procurement agent there and the project manager who is overseeing the project realization and reporting is also the same entity as UTA Sweco Consortium, as in case of the rest of the fund. We can go to the next slide, please. This is just a snapshot of how the platform looks. As mentioned, we are a trusted partner by our donors. As you have seen, we have quite substantial funds donated by important international partners, and we are managing a contract pool of over 800 million. Funds are directly paid, and a number of safeguards are in place. For potential suppliers who are interested, group of suppliers, we can also organize dedicated workshop sessions to go into the practicalities of the procurement. That would not reveal any future procurements, of course, due to the integrity of the process. Everything is revealed at the same time through the platform, but together with the procurement agent, we are also offering these information sessions for groups of potential suppliers or industry chambers, industry associations, etc. The major of our criteria are lead time and price. And we are at the mercy of the market in terms of lead time. Of course, everything is required urgently, but the more suppliers are there, the better the lead times and the price can be. That's why it's important to raise awareness about this structure, which is, of course, a business opportunity for global suppliers, at the same time, a critical lifeline for the Ukrainian energy infrastructure alike. As I mentioned, the fund is also open for private donations. So would you be interested, and you would like to channel eventually funds through a secure and trusted channel for this purpose, then we are also at your disposal. So I think the next slide is a thank you. So this was about the fund, and a couple of words about the other areas of activity which are also important for future investments in Ukraine, which are linking to the core activity of the Energy Community Secretariat, namely the legislative and regulatory harmonization with that of the European Union. Now, you might be aware about the so-called electricity integration package, which is a law under finalization in the Ukrainian parliament, in the Rada, where the Secretariat is in communication with the Ukrainian partners, where, of course, we strive to be in line with our mandate and ensure harmonized execution of this law in line with the acquis of the energy community, which is inherently based on the legislative environment of the European Union. Now, in the Ukraine Market Observatory, which is a product which we are publishing on our website, we provide a general overview about the importance and the status of that. I think the latest one, which focuses on this EIP, electricity integration package, is from last October, but you would be able to find it on our website. Now, implementing the electricity integration package and the de facto market coupling with the European Union is an opportunity for the market, for the Ukrainian market, but for foreign investors as well. Because working in unison technologically, but also in a legislative and regulatory environment on par with that of the European Union is one can say a de-risking mechanism on its own for foreign investors. So creating a harmonized environment is, we see it important for Ukraine as well, but also an enabler, perhaps hopefully sooner than later in the rebuilding phase as well of the Ukrainian energy infrastructure. So in practice, this means accelerated integration on a specific market segment with the EU, and once achieved, then ideally the same rules aligned with the EU would be applicable on the Ukrainian market, and the Ukrainian electricity market would be coupled also on a software, so not only technically, but also in market coupling terms with that of the European Union. Now, with regard to renewable energy, there are golden standards of reforms which are laid down in the so-called renewable roadmap, which is also approved by the European Commission, along which the Secretariat is working with the Ukrainian partners. Now, again, there have been legislative and regulatory legacy challenges which shall be solved through legislative and regulatory measures, and potential financial de-risking through capital should be provided for war-related risks. However, legislative and regulatory legacy issues should be solved through the laid down reform plans and roadmaps which have been agreed. Now, in terms of rebuilding, another important area is so-called NECPs, National Energy and Climate Plan of Ukraine, which is a blueprint for investment in the energy sector in the long term, and can guide and will guide the rebuilding of the energy sector as well, in line with the environmental and climate principles of the EU, because this is also based on the EU structure of national energy and climate plans. But this is providing a solid ground for the long-term planning and for the rebuilding. Now, in terms of two more topics quickly, in terms of governance, of course, the governance structures of key companies is also very important, and it shall also align with the acquis of the energy community. Now, in this regard, the Secretariat welcomes the Ministry of Energy's proactive stance, proactive role in ensuring that the governance structure of specifically the transmission system operators aligns with the acquis of the energy community and the international standards. And lastly, another topic which you might have been aware, of course, again, in line with the core mandate of the energy community, like in all countries, independence of the regulatory authority, in this case, NEURC. We have been providing comments to the NEURC law, highlighting the independence requirements under, again, the acquis of the energy community. All these areas and all these packages provide safeguards for investors into Ukraine during the rebuilding, hopefully again sooner than later, provides a harmonized environment, legislative and regulatory environment with that of the European Union. And we see and we hope that this can increase the efficiency of investments and the willingness of foreign investors to enter the Ukrainian market. And with that, I thank you for your attention and look forward to your questions. And the pleasure was mine to have presented to you. Thank you very much.